Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to a new episode of the Tabletop Engineer. If you can't tell by my voice, it's been a rough week. My youngest, he's 8, came home from school with something, and he's just spreading the love. And I was the first to catch it. I'm feeling much better, but it's taken a beating on our family. My wife right now is the one who's dealing with it. If you'll excuse the voice, what I want to do today is share with you the first part of a new series. I think this one's going to go about 3 episodes, maybe 4 max. And if you have enjoyed my previous set of videos, which had me building a goblin fortress, then I hope you like this, because what it's going to do is each video is sort of going to build on the previous ones. And I have a pretty interesting one, at least for me. I hope it's interesting to you. But before I get to the table and show you what I'm going to be making, let me explain why this video is a little different than the remaining videos in this series. One of the things that I didn't like about my Goblin Fortress, and this was probably not as noticeable to you as it was to me being here in person looking at it. The Goblin Fortress was originally, the idea came from my first piece, which was the Goblin Watchtower, which was episode 29. That one was designed a long time ago. It was one of my very early videos. And when I returned to the Goblin terrain, the next one I built was a smaller piece. And what I found is it was a bit difficult they don't look exactly the same. I mean, there's subtle differences in, I probably cut the planks a little different. I used a slightly different thickness of skewer because I couldn't find the original one I used. And then the paint color is a little different, just a little bit off. All of those things combined made me realize that, the fortress, I think I would have been happier with it. And I was very happy with it, but I would have been more happy with it if it had been consistent in its look, because some of the walkways don't quite line up. But it's because I had to take each piece, put it next to the one I was building, and eyeball it and try to get it, roughly the exact same height. Now, granted, it's a goblin fortress, so if the things don't even up, you just blame it on the goblins. But ultimately, I blame it on me. So that got me thinking that for this particular series, what I need to do is, it's going to be a large diorama broken up into 7 parts. Each part is hexagonal. I have a bunch of these, 14 in all, 2 per piece of terrain cut. What I'm going to do in this episode is show you how I'm going to assemble the basic structure of what I'm calling the Enchanter's Keep. In my world, the Enchanter is the guy you go to or the woman you go to and you pay a fee and he makes you a magic weapon or a magic wand, or he enchants something already that you own, like a coat or a pair of boots. For some time now, I have wanted a place for my players at the end of a campaign to go and spend their hard-earned gold getting some magic items, enchanting some items, things like that. And then also there might be an adventure or 2 in there, or an encounter or 2. For this series, I'm going to be building the Enchanter's Keep, which consists of 7 pieces of terrain. Each one is this shape. Initially I thought about building each piece completely, but then I realized that there might not be a consistency in the look and what I have in my mind sometimes does not translate to the actual work table. Maybe you've experienced that. So I went to Tinkercad, which is a 3D modeling application that I favor. I just used it as a way to create the Enchanter's Keep on screen so I could move things around and shift their height and stuff like that. And ultimately what I came up with was something that I really, really love. But it's going to require me to make all 7 of these pieces before I get started on the detail work. So, in this episode, if you'll follow along, which I hope you will, because I really would love to see some other people do this. You don't have to make an Enchanter's Keep. You can take this idea, you can take this shape, go with a pentagon, or go with some other shape. But what I would like you to do is, if you're interested, get yourself some chipboard and follow along each week as we make this. Now, I'm a big fan of the chipboard. If you don't have access to this at a local hobby shop, I'm going to put a link in the description below where you can get this from Amazon. It belongs to Wylock. It's his Amazon affiliate link, so he'll get a little bit of a kickback if you buy it. It's not going to cost you any more money, but if you buy it using his link, he'll get a little bit of that money towards his channel. And the reason I'm doing that is he's the one that put me onto this stuff. I've loved this stuff, and I've had it individually, like from cereal boxes and stuff like that. But until he posted his link, I didn't know where I could buy this in bulk. They're 12 by 12. You're going to do a lot of trimming, okay? A lot of trimming, but I think ultimately it's going to be worth it, and you're going to like it. So why did I choose the hexagon? When you lay this out, the center hexagon is completely surrounded by 6 more. Now, if you use like a pentagon or another shape, there's no guarantee that will happen. But with this particular shape, and I'm going to throw up a picture right here to show you these laid out on the floor. So if you take a look, you got the center one and then the ones around it. And so I've got 7 pieces of terrain in all to create. But first we got to create the actual bases. Now, why am I not just gluing foam on this and just making it? Because my Wizard's Keep has different heights for each of the sections, and you'll see why. As a matter of fact, I'll just show you. I'm going to put another picture up here of what I designed in Tinkercad to show you how each piece rises in elevation. And then I'm going to put a photo of this, a close-up of this, so you can see my math of how I'm going to calculate the sides. Like, each level is going to consist of 2 of these, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut chipboard to make the edges, and I'm going to hot glue them all together. I'll probably put some foam in the center for strength so they don't collapse or whatever. If you want to follow along, I'll include a photo of my notes here so you can get the measurements and stuff like that. Enough talking. Let's get to the work table, and I'm going to get started on making these bases. You're going to start this project out by creating a master template of whatever shape you want for your various pieces of terrain. I'm going with a hexagon, a 6-sided figure. All the sides will be 6 inches long. So create your master template, carefully cut it out, and then measure the sides to make sure they are the side length that you need. With your template, you're going to make a number of copies, so just trace it on however many copies you need. You're going to need 2 copies for each piece of terrain. Here you can see my stack of 14 for a total of 7 pieces. Now, to make the sides, you need to determine how high you want them. So you can use my sheet here. I cut these at 3.75, 3.25, and so on. They're each a 1/2 inch shallower than their neighbor. I label them. For the larger towers, I needed to use 3 pieces of chipboard. And then I took those pieces, and they're each 12 inches long. I marked at the 6-inch mark and then made a shallow cut. Don't cut all the way through, just a slight cut, and then bend it and use hot glue like I'm doing here to secure those sides. And I typically just glue down one side at a time. Now, I will tell you, this can be a little tricky. You want the edges to be flush with the work table. So put the hot glue on, put the base down, and then put the sides, attach the sides, and push down on all of it so that all of it is pressed down on the work plane so it's all flush, all right? And then once you've got one piece down, just do 2 at a time, or 1 at a time, and glue the edges so they don't come apart. Now here I'm just making the shallow edges for the 3 or 4 shorter pieces, and this only took 1 piece of chipboard. Fold them in half, and then you're going to use hot glue again to glue those around the edges of your shape. You're going to want to reinforce these with some foam. So I got my foam cutter out, and I just cut a bunch of pieces that are the same depth as each of the pieces of terrain. I glued them in with tacky glue right here. After that dried, I put some more tacky glue on the top pieces, and then I used hot glue around the outer edges, one side at a time, to secure the top piece. Okay, so that is how I have made 7 of these. This is the tallest one. It's 3.75 inches tall, give or take. There are some subtle mistakes. You'll notice it's very smooth all around the corners, but if you'll notice right here, there's a little bit of a gap. Not a big deal because this is going to be covered with foam. The main thing is I need the structure. I need it to be strong, and it is. I mean, I can crush it, but there's foam in there that's keeping me from, collapsing it. But it will be plenty strong to support minis or anything I should stack on it, and I do have some ideas for it. So there you go. If you get some chipboard and follow along on the instructions and use my measurements, you can duplicate what you have here. Obviously, the first trick is you got to create yourself a hexagon. And like I said, it showed you in the video, you can use a protractor. You can use just the fact that all the sides are 6 inches to use a series of grids to find these angles right here. It's not hard. But once you've got these, then it's time to start planning the layout. So let me talk about that real quick. So this is the Enchanter's Keep. Each of the 7 areas has a specific function for the Enchanter's Keep. Now, some of them are probably pretty obvious. You'll probably figure some out. I'll go ahead and give you one. One of them is going to be the library. It's going to be heavy on books and shelves and things like that. A lot of what I plan on doing for these 7 pieces will be some handmade terrain, but I'm also not going to reinvent the wheel. If any of you are familiar with some of the latest, greatest terrain that's, I don't think it's resin, it's plastic, but WizKids has some outstanding things like treasure stacks and books and stuff. So does Mantic, and there's some more. Over here, I can't show you right now because I don't want to give too much away. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 boxes that I've slowly collected over the last few months. Some of them from Mantic, some are from WizKids, but all of them have things that are going to feed into this Enchanter's Keep, and it's going to look really cool. I hope it's going to look really cool. So next week, next week I'll be back with one video, but I'm going to tackle 2, maybe 3 of the hexagons. That includes the foam, any terrain that will go onto it, the painting, all that good stuff. But right now I've got 5 of these done. I've got 2 more that need to have the foam glued in. All in all, it took me an hour and a half to make all of them minus one side. Does that make sense? One side plus the walls. An hour and a half. I figure another half hour to an hour for gluing down the piece, and you got to let that glue dry if you're going to use tacky glue. I guess you could use hot glue, but I didn't want to take a chance on melting the foam in there and then having it come loose, so I used tacky glue. So anyway, I hope you're liking where this is going. Definitely, I'm going to put a picture right here of the final layout over there, where it's sort of, you can see that it's sort of like a staircase. It goes all the way up, and each one of those platforms is going to serve a different function that I think you're going to enjoy. So that's all I have for you this week. Hopefully next week my voice will be slightly back and I won't be sick and stuffed up, and I'll be a little more productive. But thanks for your patience in getting this video out a little late. I would love to see your take on this. Oh, one final thing. Let's see, I used 14, all right, it's 7 pieces times 2 for the sides. That was 14. And then it needed 3 for these tall pieces. I used 3 of those to make the sides. So now we're up to 17, and then a single sheet for the smaller, shallower pieces, for a total of 18 pieces of 12 by 12 inch chipboard. So that should give you an idea of how many pieces of chipboard you'll need to duplicate this exactly as I've got it. 18 pieces. All right, check the link below for or check the description below for a link to the Amazon affiliate for Wylock, where you can order the chipboard, and I'll see you next week. Take care.